The lesson.
Oh yeah.
You mentioned Wiley, and you know his influence in the UK. I guess when we're talking some of the most influential grime artists from the UK, who springs to mind other than Wiley, of course?
Depends whether I suppose personally or for everyone. I suppose
We'll do both.
Yeah, I suppose Kano, Dizzy Rascal, DWE, Footsie, P Money, Ghetto. My favourites would be Dirty Goods, Gets, Big H, Prez T, all the Bloodline really, Meridian Dan. I love Family Tree, Murky Ace, MIK, Rico, Killer P, Trim. Trim is probably one of my all-time top 10 MCs for sure, 100%. There's so many good MCs coming through. Like, you know what I mean? Yes, just try it. If you haven't heard any of those names, then just try going through those. You know what I mean? You find some bangers in there.
Now, also, I guess on the topic of influence, Charlie Sloth, Fire in the Booth. I mean, that's had a pretty big impact in the UK. Have you ever, did you ever get to...
No, his show, I was already living in Australia.
So you haven't been back?
No.
Has that had a bit of an impact on you? Are you a fan of that show?
Yeah, not the show really. Like I don't really listen to the radio, to be honest. But I definitely check for stuff for performances like Fire in the Booths. There's be some crazy ones on there, some real classic stuff, and that was. I think that's something that's always, those kind of radio things have always been important, I think, and I think that's something that I've tried to encourage over here, because it's something that's always happened in England, you know what I mean, and particularly with grime stuff. So you'll see, you look back at the Triple R ciphers we used to do back in Melbourne years ago, that are organised, and then we had a radio show on Kiss FM, and I think it's important that you have that live element on radio, you know what I mean? And yeah, Fire in the Booth has been huge, for some artists it's made their careers.
Now, with hip hop, traditionally the bars, the raps is a really important part of it. And if you ask me, it still is.
Yep.
Opinions vary. And if you look at least the more commercial side of things now, as well as outside of that, some would maybe say that the emphasis is not there as much as it used to be at one point in time.
Yep.
One of the things that sort of caught my attention about grime was that everything that I've been shown, I was like, it's just bar heavy.
Yeah.
It's like that. That's the thing now.
Yeah.
It's like hip hop has managed to maintain an existence and even grow without maintaining that bar influence. Do you think that as time goes on, the same thing might happen with grime, or is that just like...
Yeah, well, I don't know. Like, I think, like, this, as far as the American stuff goes, that's like, that we say is simpler and stuff. Some of it is, and some of it isn't. Some of Migos' stuff is pretty cool, like flows wise and stuff, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I'll just pick, they're the most popular group out, so I'll pick them. I think it's easy to judge something just based on appearances, and some of them look pretty. Some of these guys look pretty weird. Like, don't get me wrong, you know what I mean. And traditionally, hip hop has been very kind of straight, very judgmental in that sort of respect. So I can see why some older heads or whatever. That's just the worst term, older heads. But I can see why some of them would not be into it. But if you take some time, some of it is really, really good. But also, what you got to remember as well, when you were listening to hip hop in the 90s or whatever, it wasn't mainstream. Hip hop is the mainstream now, so it's basically, it's pop music. Like, you know what I mean? You weren't listening to Britney Spears in the 90s, and a lot of this some of it is the equivalent of, you know what I mean? And that's not to diss it. It's a different type of music. It's changed. It's not what it was like, and so you can't judge it on that 90s viewpoint. I think the UK stuff is the MCs. I think like the whole bar thing. You kind of need to have those. You need to have bars to go on radio. Like, and grime has come from like radio and raves, and radio. You need those bars. Like, you can't have shit bars. You know what I mean? You need it because your aim and the raves. Your aim is to get a reload. Is to get the place so high that the DJ wheels the tune back. You know what I mean? So you want to go straight in as hard as you can. You know, but it's interesting you say that, you know, most of the grime stuff you've heard is you've been like, you know, it's cool bar wise, but there's a lot of grime I could probably play you. You'd be like, that's fucking simple, fucking shit. You know what I mean? But for me, that's some of the best grime out there. Like, grime has a very simple, basic formula for some styles. You know what I mean? Like, a very popular, you know, thing in grime is what's called one-line flows, where you just repeat the same word at the end of the bar or something. You know what I mean? And for a lot of hip hop people, that'd be fucking sacrilege. You know, sacrilegious. Like, you know. And I remember when I first would play some of that stuff to hip hop people, they'd be like, "Why are they saying the same bar? Like, why are they saying?" You know, but you can't judge it in the same way. You know what I mean? You can go into a rave and you can spit your most fucking multi-syllable filled bar that's like and it goes straight over the crowd's head. Fucking DEE can come on and just go and just make a noise and just go ooh. That's all he does, and fucking the crowd goes absolutely nuts. You know what I mean? So, like, there's a lot of character, you know, more character involved as well, you know. But I think UK MCs at the moment are really shining, like, lyrically and stuff. You know what I mean? They're really putting some Americans to shame. But, you know, people say this American hip hop shit at the moment or whatever, you know, but it's not. There's good stuff everywhere. Like, if you don't like that, then don't listen to it. Go and listen to that. Like, there's good stuff everywhere. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I could go and find some good American hip hop in 2 minutes. You know, I could find some good Mongolian hip hop in 2 minutes, probably. You know, maybe. But there's good stuff everywhere. You know, It's like people saying, "Oh, I don't like Aussie hip hop." Okay, maybe you don't like that type Aussie hip hop, but have you heard that or that or that or that? You know what I mean? Like, it's just dumb to say you don't like a genre. You know, I don't dislike any genre like hugely. You know, everyone always says, "No, I don't like country music," but, you know, some country stuff I can probably get down with. You know, in the right mood. You know, but there's good stuff on all sorts of music. You know what I mean?
And I guess with hip hop, you know, as far as in the States, particularly, I guess in the '90s era, you know, you could hear something from New York and you knew it was from New York. Whereas if you heard something from the West, you know, you knew it was from the West. Yeah. Same with the South. Like, each coast had its distinctive sound. Yeah. Is grime the same or similar in that sense in the UK?
What, in terms of regionally?
Yeah, like, can you sort of...
Well, for so long, London was, you know, the only, because all grime was, you know, come from, you know, and no one gave a shit about anything outside London. Like, and then when there was a time when grime in London was kind of not dying off, but it got a bit quieter, as hip hop was coming through more, and the guys in the Midlands, like Birmingham and Nottingham, they really came through, and they kept grime alive during that time. You know, and you've got a lot of people, particularly in Australia, I noticed there's a lot of people who got into a grime around that time. So some of their favourite MCs are these Midlands ones, you know, that are not necessarily the biggest names that you might not have heard of, but they were killing it at that time. And there's definitely a sound that comes out of the Midlands, like, definitely. Production and MC-wise, flow-wise, everything. I don't know whether I've noticed it so much in other cities. You know, England's, well, you got to remember as well, England's so small, you know, you can drive everywhere in no time as well. I think one of the things that has caused, like, the, you know, everything to sound similar, or to not to have those individual sort of sounds that you used to have, is the internet. There's no time for a scene to grow and, you know, and find itself without someone on the other side of the world knowing about it tomorrow. You know, you can't, it's impossible. Everything's changed. There's never, I don't know whether there'll be that sort of scene thing happen again. You know what I mean? In the same way, like, you know, grime was completely unknown almost to so many people for so long. I don't know whether if it come out in 2018, whether it would still do the same thing, or how it would work, or Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, so I think that's one of the reasons why everything's sounding a bit similar. You know, places don't get a chance to develop their own sound.
The lesson. 2-7. Oh yeah.